I think that where Homeland Security is concerned is that we have to distinguish between security and security theater. We have to be able to identify the real risks that we confront as a country versus things that are not real risks. They may be problems, they may be management challenges, but they're not risks to the safety of Americans. If I can illustrate that, I think real risks to the United States now are risks associated with climate change and the extreme weather events caused by climate. I think real risks involve our cybersecurity, the protection of our critical infrastructure. Indeed, if there's one undisputed finding out of the Mueller investigation, it's that the Russians were all over our 2016 election. They were hacking the Clinton campaign and releasing emails. They were planning false and deceptive stories in social media, all in an effort to disadvantage Hillary Clinton and to advantage now President Trump. I think if a foreign power is directly interfering in your democratic elections, that is a threat to Homeland Security. I mean, I can't think of anything actually in a way more fundamental. Climate, cyber, then mass gun violence, sometimes motivated by terrorist ideology, and the ideology can most frequently be tied to far right-wing extremism, sometimes tied to no ideology at all, sometimes tied to pathology. Those three things, I think, are the real risks that the department really should be focused on. In contrast, what is not a real risk is the conditions of the southwest border. Now, I know that border very well. I actually grew up in New Mexico. I spent most of my adult life in Arizona, and now I'm in California. All three are border states. I have walked that border. I have ridden it by horseback. I have flown over it in aircraft, planes, helicopters, you name it. I really know that border. And I will say that the border now is so much more secure than it was in the early years when I was governor. We've seen a great expansion in the number of Border Patrol agents. We've seen additions in technology, sensors, tunnel detection equipment. We've seen air cover over the border. The border, when you think about it, it's 1,940 miles, and there are ports of entry along the border. So between the border, we are so much more secure than we were in the past, and the numbers show it. By the end of the Obama administration, we had driven illegal crossings through that border down to 40, 45-year lows. Real border protection means making sure that those strategies, the manpower, the technology, and the like, are maintained and sustained between the ports of entry, and that we continue to bolster our activities at the actual ports of entry, our ability to effectively X-ray trucks as they're coming through, vehicles as they're coming through, so we can identify compartments where narcotics could be being hidden, because as we know, most illegal narcotics enter the country not between the ports, but through the ports. And I say this to illustrate why building a wall along the border is not real Homeland Security. It is a symbol, it is not a strategy. And real Homeland Security requires strategic thinking. The issue now is the arrival at the border of families with children who are claiming asylum. They primarily come from Central America. To me, the proper approach there is not separating children from families, not putting everybody into detention, but to, as I think about it, flood the zone with the rule of law. Flood the zone with immigration judges so that hearings can be promptly scheduled and held. Apply the law as it was intended. Apply the law so that those fleeing gang violence and those kinds of dangers can find asylum in the United States. The overemphasis on building a wall, I think, is not real Homeland Security. I think real Homeland Security, as I've mentioned, is a strategy.